like to add an addition to my biggest NFL disappointments, because the Carolina Panthers, all the levels of disappointment, every level for them. Actually, I'll give their defense a pass, but it's just been ugly, man. We talked about it. Is Baker Mayfield the worst starting quarterback in the league? Well, he's not probably going to be a starter much longer. Apparently, he has an ankle injury. Apparently, the fire sale's begun. Reports of an inquiry between the Buffalo Bills for Christian McCaffrey. What were your thoughts when you first heard that Matt Rhule was released this early in the season?
I don't usually care this much, but I'm going to say this here. I have never been more right about anything than I have been the last 3 seasons about the Carolina Panthers. Every step along the way, I have been absolutely correct about the Carolina Panthers. This began in 2019 when I first started doing the Take It Easy podcast, available on Believe and wherever you get podcasts. When I said, Carolina, you're in a perfect position to tear it down. McCaffrey's value will never be higher, and it's the running back position. You don't plan to compete for the next 3 seasons, so what good does it do you to extend him when you know he has about 3 years of good football left? They gave McCaffrey an extension. They ended up hiring Matt Rhule, which at the time, again, not a terrible hire. And then from there, they go 5-11. They go 5-11. They saved $20 million by getting rid of Cam Newton and then gave that $20 million to Teddy Bridgewater. They then paid the Broncos $13 million to take Teddy Bridgewater, then traded a second-round pick for Sam Darnold, where they could have had Justin Fields or Micah Parsons at pick 9 in that draft. J.C. Horn is really good, according to the Pro Football Focus guys, so that's going to look better as time goes on, but they could have had Justin Fields and Micah Parsons. Instead, they gave up a second-round pick for Sam Darnold. They fired Joe Brady out of nowhere last year and replaced him with goddamn Ben McAdoo, and Carolina went 5-11 for a third consecutive season. I told you in July, when they spent 4 months posturing with Baker Mayfield, he's an upgrade over Sam Darnold, and it will not change their win-loss record by a single game. And lo and behold, I have been goddamn right about everything about the Carolina Panthers.
You weren't exactly right. Again, you said Baker Mayfield would be an improvement over Sam Darnold. That was very incorrect, as we've seen in the early season results.
Sure. To each their own in terms of that. Sam Darnold's really bad at football also, but
no,
hey, PJ Walker time.
I don't disagree with Sam Darnold is bad at football. I just think that Baker has been extremely bad at football. When you look at that game against the Niners, which, by the way, go Niners, the double clutch interception, just looks like he's playing scared out there. I don't know if that had to do with the ankle injury. I don't know if it's a little bit of shell shock from last year. Either way, Baker Mayfield's just not the same guy he was his rookie year. He wasn't the same guy that he was even 2 years ago in 2020. He's just shot as a quarterback at this point. And the next question for Baker is, what is the next phase of his career? Is it going to be as a backup? You would assume so, but at the same time, I kind of feel like Baker Mayfield has that stain that a lot of other guys of his ilk have, like a Cam Newton, the kind of like flashy, showy, former starter, former stud. I feel like it's not going to be as simple as him just getting a job as next year. There's going to be having some concessions made as far as his next destination of where he ends up going. As far as this fire sale that's getting proposed for Carolina, Christian McCaffrey, Brian Burns, DJ Moore, teams are inquiring about. So these are 3 big names. And this is what I meant when I first credited the Carolina Panthers. I thought that they were going to make a turnaround this year. I still thought that there was star caliber names on this team, names that other teams will find desirable. And sure enough, it's clear based off the early reports of teams inquiring that these names do have value for them. Okay, Christian McCaffrey, what do you think that would net you? What would you pay for Christian McCaffrey if you're a GM?
It depends on the team. So if you're a team that's kind of like long-centric, like say the New York Jets, if the New York Jets are making a trade, they don't need to put a premium on the running back position because they would be better served through their rebuild investing in that young draft capital.
The rumors,
that's the next team I was going to go to. If you're Buffalo, overpay for Christian McCaffrey. Buffalo, that could be the difference between Buffalo being very, very, very good and better than Kansas City. And that you cannot put a price on that one, of the all-in move of going to upgrade at the running back position that I still can't comprehend how terrible it's been. Buffalo's just got to do the analysis on what McCaffrey's worth in the market, which I got to be honest, I do not know what Christian McCaffrey would command at this point on the open market. I couldn't even throw a guess at you as to what Christian McCaffrey would be worth. Is he a first-round pick? Is it multiple day 2 picks? Is it a player in a pick? I have no idea what you could get for Christian McCaffrey McCaffrey at this point. And when it comes to DJ Moore and when it comes to Burns and when it comes to Chin, and it's going to come down to those players also on the team, I will say the same thing to them that I said to Seattle this offseason. You don't have to trade anybody. You also should take offers on everyone. You should evaluate exactly what you value those players at. If someone meets the price tag, don't hesitate to pull the trigger. You should make everyone available, but you don't have to trade anybody. You don't have to like get 70 cents on the dollar because you want to tear this thing all the way to the ground. Like some of those players on the team are nice to haves, like Shaq Thompson, who just signed a giant extension, is a nice to have type of guy. The only must moves are the ones that preserve salary cap space and possibly lead to compensatory picks. Everything else, only trade them if a team meets your price tag.
As far as DJ Moore, I think that the Carolina Panthers should move on, mostly because I think that wide receiver is a replaceable position in the NFL. And I feel if you could get a second or third round pick from DJ Moore, who I still think is a second or third round talent, even at current value, I think that that's a move that Panthers should explore. As far as Brian Burns goes, he's a bit of an X factor to me because it's not easy to find star pass rushers in the NFL. You don't sell low on Brian Burns. I think that you can get a good pick off of him. If we look at someone like a Frank Clark or a D Ford, that was about a high second round pick a couple years ago. So I would say Brian Burns should at least equal that, if not a lower end first round pick. Christian McCaffrey, like you said, I think that that's the weirder one just because of how the NFL evaluates the running back position now. You wouldn't draft many running backs in the first round unless you're David Gettleman. So I don't know how many other NFL GMs are going to trade a first round pick for a running back like Christian McCaffrey, unless you just don't look at him as a running back. That's also the thing about Christian McCaffrey, right? Because we value how much of a difference maker he is in the receiving game. If you value him more as a slot wide receiver, that maybe changes what you perceive Christian McCaffrey as. A team like Buffalo, who doesn't really have a running game, I don't know how they would really value a Christian McCaffrey because he is obviously an improvement over what they currently have in the backfield. But if they intend to use him more as a Cole Beasley type or Cole Beasley replacement and that slot, then I don't know if he's necessarily the same value. You know, a team he'd be really valuable for, the San Francisco 49ers. After all, we do love to acquire running backs with injury histories, and he would be fantastic in those 3 games he suited up as a Kyle Shanahan running back. I think that they should explore those 3 players. You know, JC Horn, someone I think is going to be part of your future. You want to keep him around. Lockdown cornerback, one of the best in the game at that position already, just in his second year. I think JC Horn's a good building block. I think they have good quality defensive pieces, but they'll have to ask themselves, what is our goals for the rest of the season? Because you mentioned, okay, Baker, he might go down a couple weeks with this ankle injury. Okay, PJ Walker slide in, Sam Darnold's coming back from IR. I guess you want to get some evaluations of all 3 of those guys. You know that they're no longer.
No, you don't have to. I will say none of those 3 quarterbacks are going to be on the team next year. I will put that out there. Put this down in our list. None of these 3 quarterbacks, Baker, Sam Darnold, or PJ Walker, will be on the team next year. And
do you want to go all in on this coming year to go after a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young, or do you maybe even want to punt a year for like a Caleb Williams the next year? Because you can set yourself up to be really bad in 2 years. I will say I think it's tough just because the Panthers came into this year trying to compete.
Yes, for sure. This was the make or break season, of course. And my evaluation on this has changed. The Lions and the Giants have made me think about this, where it's like they haven't liked anybody in the last couple of years' drafts. And so they've gone with, you know, the Giants don't see Daniel Jones being on the team beyond this year. But because they were just like, could do worse, they just kind of slid him in for a season they think and probably still will be a rebuilding year. And I keep saying they're shooting for Will Levis. Lions, same situation. They don't view Goff as the long-term option, but it's a fine holdover for years. And if you don't like the options, it's just the reason I say the Baker, Darnold, and Walker thing is that it'll be very easy to move off of all 3 of them at the end of this season. And so the new coach will come in and do what they want. And on the McCaffrey front, I just realized something as you were mentioning the 49ers, which is if you're a team like Buffalo, Kansas City, the Rams, and the 49ers, and you trade for Christian McCaffrey, it's very easy to explain why. If you're another team that's offering premium capital for McCaffrey, you're going to have to explain to me why you're doing it. So like the Jets. Why would you trade for Christian McCaffrey? How does this fit into the grand scheme that you're trying to run? If you're a team like I don't think the Raiders would, but I'm just throwing a team out there that I'm thinking about. Like, if you're not a team where it's very clear why you're making this trade and how it fits into your offense, maybe second guess before you give up premium capital for McCaffrey, which I know sucks because that means McCaffrey is going to go to one of the 4 best teams in the league, because when you're Buffalo and Kansas City, of course you can make room for Christian McCaffrey on your team.
F them picks, right?
Rams totally should. Their running game has been atrocious the last 2 years. They should absolutely get McCaffrey if they can, or Derrick Henry, one of the two.
He kind of looks like Cooper Kupp, so I think that might work for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, they got all the white receivers out there. Skronik there, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp. They'll be fine just sliding McCaffrey in. I will also say
like Matthew Stafford's loving those check down plays a lot more these days.
The one part I will also bring up about Baker Mayfield, and you mentioned this earlier, is Baker Mayfield's that guy who is fueled by the haters. He is fueled by, I have a gigantic boulder on my shoulder and I'm going to prove someone wrong. I was cut at Texas Tech after walking on and stealing the starting job. I was the Heisman Trophy winner, going to Cleveland, guy who was constantly talked about being replaced. Like, chip on your shoulder guys usually are the ones who flame out faster, because what happens when the haters are proven correct? Like, what happens when all the evaluation comes true and you have to evolve and adapt your identity? It's difficult to do, especially when you've made it this far by being the guy who's fueled by the hatred and using it to your advantage. Now he has to reinvent his personality a little bit. That's the personality type that famously flames out of the NFL. I don't want to like throw Johnny Manziel accusations onto him just because of all that's encompassed with Johnny Manziel and fame and alcoholism and all sorts of stuff. But Baker Mayfield follows a similar trend of the people who flame out spectacularly are the people who then have to change their identity as they no longer become an NFL starting quarterback.
Do you think the only place he really fits is a team that has a superstar quarterback already?
I think it depends on Baker Mayfield the person, and I don't know Baker Mayfield the person. I think as it's currently constructed now, a situation where he's a very clear backup would be beneficial because it gives him the time to kind of process what the next 5 to 10 years of his career going to look like. Because he could be Gardner Minshew for a decade. He could be like Geno Smith for a decade. Like, if he so chooses, he could be a backup quarterback and a very good backup quarterback for many, many years.
Give me the best landing spot you can think of for Baker.
Best landing spot in the league. Well, I think at this stage of his career, it would be a place that has a quarterback who might get replaced. So like, I guess like maybe Minnesota or something, like a place where he could do what I call bridge watering, which is like, he could take over for the starting job if the guy plays poorly or if he gets hurt, like what Tannehill did with Mariota.
I just don't like that from his personality type. And we'll see, like you mentioned, he can evolve. People change all the time. They get better, they improve, they grow. He's coming off an offseason in which, again, he became a sympathetic character in the public eye because of everything going on with Cleveland. What is that coming off poor play? Obvious poor play. Dumbfounding how bad he's played this year, given that his numbers are comparable to most NFL rookies. He just flew below Justin Fields. Who knows how much leash we're going to continue to give Justin Fields too. I think the only places that make sense, I mean, come on, like how long is like Chad Henne going to keep going along in Kansas City, right? Or Buffalo's always probably looking for a backup quarterback. Justin Herbert, Chase Daniel has been in the league forever. I'm sure that he could use conceivably a backup quarterback. I doubt the Packers are really selling themselves high on Jordan Love anymore these days. And you never know, you have a veteran quarterback who could retire any day. So maybe there's that in terms of rebuilding your character and trying to just find a place where you could kind of fly under the radar. Tampa, I would say no, just because I think Brady could conceivably be in his last year. So that would instantly make Mayfield the starter next year. Those are just some of the places that kind of like instantly come to mind as far as like where Baker could go next. We'll see, but I mean, he just needs to play better. I mean, bottom line, end of story. Like, it doesn't really matter his character, what he says in a press conference. He just needs to show it on the field. At least at some point this season. I'm sure he's going to get another opportunity to go out there. I don't think PJ Walker's going to light it up the rest of the season and just steal the job.
No,
I don't think Sam Darnold's going to light it up the rest of the season and just steal the job. So Baker's going to have his opportunity. We'll see if he can improve. But guys, anyway, that is our video talking about rebuilding for the Carolina Panthers. Let us know what you think they should do. What are your evaluations of these players and what should the draft compensation be for them? We want to know your thoughts in the comment section. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media, stay safe, happy, and healthy.
From Ju-Ju and Kyle, we'll see you next time.